Hello everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, How to Get Your Community Involved in Your Girls Program. My name is Clara Longfellow and I am a National Programs Officer here at the Girls Action Foundation. In a couple of minutes I will be passing the mic to Zeeta Maharaj from the Black Community Resource Center.
We are very fortunate to have her with us today, and I am happy to see some familiar names joining us for today's webinar. For those returning, welcome back. For those of you who are new to our webinar series, I wanted to briefly introduce you to the Girls Action Foundation before passing things along to Zeeta, who will also be joined by Tessa and Nadine, who are facilitators from the Taking Hold project. Very quickly, Girls Action Foundation is a national nonprofit that works to empower girls. We are based in Montreal, where we run local girls programs, and we work with some 300 partners across the country who run their own girls programs. We also provide leadership training, organize networking events, and do other projects and programs that connect girls and young women. Just before introducing Zeeta, I'd like to walk you through the interactive side of today's webinar. You'll see on your screen a number of different information displays and panels that will be changing throughout the presentation. On the right-hand side of your screen, you'll see a panel window titled Q&A. Here's where you can ask questions and interact with Zeeta, myself, and other participants. If you have a question or comment during the presentation, type it into the Q&A box, hit enter, and it will be recorded there. By default, the question will be visible to everyone. If you would prefer to submit your question privately, click on the down arrow at the bottom of the Q&A box and select Girls Action instead of all participants. The question will then come only to me. During Zeeta's presentation, she will be answering questions from the Q&A box, so feel free to ask your questions as they come. You don't have to save them until the end of the presentation. We will also be taking polls throughout the presentation. They won't take more than a couple of minutes. I also wanted to let you know that today's webinar is being recorded, including the question period. This will be posted online and we'll send everyone a link to the recording. Finally, at the end of the webinar, a survey will pop up. Please fill it out. We'd love to read your feedback. With that covered, I'd like to introduce Zeeta. Zeeta Maharaj is Project Coordinator at the Black Community Resource Center of Montreal. With an undying love of music, Zeeta embarked on a journey that has set her on her pace to discover and lay down the foundation to her future. She has been a purveyor of music to the masses any way that she can. Her love and talent for music makes her interventions with youth creative and artistic. The Black Community Resource Center takes a comprehensive approach to meeting the needs of English-speaking youth. They refer to this approach as the Holistic Project. In adopting this approach to community service, they recognize that youth have many needs, for example, socio-cultural, educational, and economic, that must be addressed in order for youth to achieve their maximum potential in our society. Their multi-interventionist holistic strategy is progressive and unique. At its foundation is the idea of leveraging partnerships and encouraging collaboration in order to support individuals, families, and organizations. And now I'll be passing the mic over to Zeeta.
Good afternoon, everybody. And I primarily want to thank Clara and everybody over at Girls Action Foundation for not only this opportunity, but the tireless work that is done over the years through your organization and helping other community organizations, and mostly by helping to build healthy young women in our community settings and assist them along their journey. That's something I feel that we are all participating in trying to learn and develop, and so I'm grateful to have this opportunity to discuss that and really try to focus on community angles, but have taken a very direct and honest approach to this webinar. We'll discuss some of our hurdles, some of our highlights, and mostly how to gain community support. And by doing so, we will be talking about the program in question. It's called Taking Hold. I am pleased and honored to have the participating animators that are running this program and have breathed life to it with me, Tessa and Nadine. They'll get the opportunity to discuss also some of their insights, also their perspectives on how to try to engage community and school for programs. I totally want to thank you in advance for this opportunity so we can also continue to build and make new network. I do have a polling question for you as we get started, and the question is as follows. What role describes you best? A, work in a nonprofit organization. B, work at a profit organization. C, individuals interested in the topic. Or D, work with groups as consultant or an intervener. I believe I'm going to open the poll and we'll have a minute to have you please answer that question. Thank you very much. I would like to share our poll results so that way we see where we're headed and where we're off to. As a beautiful start, many of us are working in a nonprofit organization, and as we already know, like-minded individuals usually group together. So I'm grateful that we're all coming from a similar place, and also we can get the opportunity to learn from one another, and hopefully this presentation will get that opportunity to maybe think of a thing or two in a different format, and also through your questions and answers, should you have something that will help benefit us, we would love to adopt it. So thank you. As you see here, I'm at a little bit about myself. Thank you for the wonderful introduction, Clara. Yes, I am a music aficionado, but I'm also highly motivated by education and using edutainment, for the lack of a better acronym, to kind of get our girls and or youth motivated. I do so by relating through music or through art, culture, and various means of connecting to youth. And a lot of that is being really human and realistic and allowing for the students or the students that we're working with to build a rapport with us through something that they are familiar with. By the two animators that are working with us, I come to see that they too have used this very natural, authentic approach to allow for great community involvement and also for the girls themselves to be very at ease, I'm going to say, to come and talk with our animators. They themselves, Tessa and Nadine, come from different cultural backgrounds, but they are unified in their approach in dealing with the young ladies. And today I will be talking a little bit about mirroring positive images in our communities through animators like them. Next up is a little bit about the BCRC. The Black Community Resource Center is an official language center in Quebec, which means its mandate is to serve English-speaking Blacks on the island. With that said, I would like to highlight that the BCRC does not only serve Black-speaking allophones or Anglophones. It's a resource center that helps direct the needs of anyone who present themselves to their office. Therefore, the center does run different programs, which you know now. One of them is called Taking Hold. There are other programs that the center runs, but also if somebody were to present themselves at the center and needed a lawyer, for example, or if they needed medical consultants, something of the sort, it is part of their mandate to try to help set you up with somebody who speaks the language in which you prefer. And that's the real resource that is the BCRC. They are located in Côte-des-Neiges. The address is 6767 Côte-des-Neiges Road, for those of you that are listening in from Montreal. To start it off, I'd like to talk to you a little bit about the project itself. The project is called Taking Hold, and the project consists of art, mixed media art used to help prevent young girls from getting into various risky behaviors, and they are vetted according to various risky behaviors that they're presenting already. The one thing that helps the project work, in my opinion, is a really great foundation. And a lot of the times, the better the program design is, the more opportunity for there to be growth and or the possibility of renewal from it. As we all know, if we're from a nonprofit background, grants are not usually replenished annually, and if they are, it's a huge undertaking from the standpoint of the organization. So in order to actually get the funding to run a program, the program itself is usually very solid and tries to shoot for the stars in the sense of extending themselves to get as many people involved and as many people in the student's life on board. Therefore, if I could explain, the Taking Hold project has many stakeholders, one being the animators who connect well with the students. Another would be parent involvement, which is something that the BCRC in writing the grant made very clear they wanted our attention to work with parents as much as possible. Sometimes in a risky behavior, parents are not always the first person in contact with their youth, with their child. It could be a legal guardian. It could also be somebody in their family that they're close with. And we're seeing more and more sometimes in cases it could be a coach or somebody that they are connecting with via a after-school activity or an outside of the school activity. And it's just really making sure that we're able to find that person and corral them into the program or let them know of the objectives. I will talk later on more specifically about the support person in the school, but it also does highlight a good project would require to have somebody who's at the school level to support them. For the animators, I have to say they also have to be independent and they have to be able to think quickly on their feet because like any teacher or any parent would know, the minute you have a lesson plan or an organized activity, in your head, it doesn't always go accordingly, and the animators are chuckling because it's very often the case. So being able to go with the flow and switch things up and also positively mirroring behaviors is really key. The other piece of the project that's important is vetting. Vetting not only the animators to make sure they are cohesive and are able to work in tandem together and play off one another, but also vetting the group to make sure that the participants are able to understand the rules that are set out. Taking Hold works in 7 schools, and I would like to really take pause for a second and highlight that this is an accomplishment for us in itself. This is the 3rd time this program is being run, and I will explain that in just a moment. It is, however, the first time we have been in 7 high schools in a 4-day period. That means the animators are, if breathing, I'm not sure if they're coming up for air, but they're running a lunchtime activity and an after-school activity. And there's 1 day a week where they just have 1 day, one session, I should say. They don't work Fridays. That was the way the mandate of the program was developed. So in a 4-day work week, they have 7 schools. If you see on the slide, it says History Expressing Life. In 2010, I was hired by the BCRC as an animator doing the project that Tessa and Nadine are now doing. It was called Expressing Life back then, and it was similar. It was, however, a bigger group of girls. It was 4 animators, 2 teams of 2, and our mandate was to go into 5 high schools, so 1 a week. So therefore, we would have 10 schools. Just to highlight that they are able to do 7 schools in 4 days amongst themselves. It is not a simple feat, and I really do sound complimentary to them because I'm in awe of their ability and skill set. Expressing Life was the groundwork for Taking Hold in terms of meeting community partners and in terms of structuring some of the lessons and or art activities. Taking Hold and Expressing Life are mixed media art-based projects that help young girls on different topics try to find themselves and overall raise self-esteem, try to deviate from riskier behaviors, risky for them being gang prevention, prostitution, and or other risky behaviors, self-harm, negative self-image, and or negative self-talk to girls themselves. It is important that we stress that each animator brings something new to the table and brings their own experiences and their wealth of knowledge. What's impressive on our part is that this has been a very small-knit group of people that are working. On our advisory board this year, we have Allison McKay, who was a previous animator in the Expressing Life project, and then again last year on the first iteration of this 2-year Taking Hold project. This is the last year for it. The 7 schools we are in are the following: LaSalle Community Comprehensive High School, Burling Academy, which is both schools are Left to Be Person schools, Marymount, Westmount, John F. Kennedy, John Paul I, and Rosemount. The following 5 schools as listed are all EMSB schools. In focusing on how to get your community involved, I think it's important to highlight this is also the first year we are in LBPSB schools. I will discuss that again afterwards. The criteria for how we can really identify getting the right fit for the school. Over the time, we realized that the input from the school was a key element to make sure we had the best fit for the program. The reason being, in the time that we've done this, we realized a overall participation and or sign-up sheet got girls that were interested in art activities, but not necessarily identified as in, or by, I should say, the various administrators and or guidance counselors for having fit the criteria of being risky. And we went to the schools this time around with that knowledge base, and we were able to really try to vet the schools to give us the students that would best fit the needs of our students. The students, however, also have to fit a specific criteria for the grant. They have to be under 15 or just at 15 years old and have to have seen some sort of change in their behavior or demeanor over their first year of high school into their second. Changes could include defiant behavior, boisterousness. They can be getting into fights. They can also be involved in older groups, talk about gang behavior, initiation behavior, also exhibit risky behaviors in terms of hypersexuality, and also if they start to wear inappropriate clothing in the sense that they all of a sudden have jewelry and or key elements that would put teachers or somebody in the school on notice that this is not necessarily the student's MO. The program is identified to help because we've gotten feedback sheets from students that say that this is a program they want to see more and more of. I'm going to let that awesome piece of information come from the ladies later on. They can let you know some of their highlights. That's a really great piece. However, to really recommend somebody to the program, we feel the best resources are guidance counselors, FSST workers, and teacher recommendations. FSST are family, school, and support technicians. Most schools have them. They might have a different name or like a variety of a title. However, this individual usually has a very big open door policy. They usually have lunch with the student population. They have an office that's central where the students can come and talk to them, and they know the students and the various risks that the students may or may not be going through. Therefore, their input is key. We realize that guidance counselors have that same know-how, and teachers. The teachers obviously see the changes in the students from year to year if they have them again, and they see them in the hallways and they're monitoring them during lunch and so on. So they're the best fit for us, in our opinion. Having it be a senior administrator like a principal or a VP usually doesn't have the same output, and the reason for it is because, well, they are the principal of the school. It's their business to run the business of the school. It's not always the most calming or most inviting thing to do to be called on by your principal. So we feel that in order to get your program run in a school, if that's something that you're interested in, make sure that you vet who is coming in to help out as the support as one of your key things. At this time, I'd like to ask our second polling question, which is going to pop up right now. Have you ever had challenges running your program in a school? Quite simple, A for yes, B for no, and I will start the poll now. Thank you very much, and I am going to now share our results. Moving on, the reason why I asked this question is because sometimes we run a program not knowing some of the hurdles we will have to experience in terms of dealing with community. When we're in community, we like to deal with community, and a lot of the times our approaches in school doesn't always work. Primarily, we have to deal with governing boards, we have to deal with staff councils, we have to deal with principal meetings, and we have to deal with the overall school board permission. Some of the hurdles we have come across are the following, where we were allowed to, hold on a second, I'm just trying to switch over, there we go. We have been allowed to go into a school via the school board. However, the school principal may not agree or doesn't have time at that point to let us in. A lot of the times we've learned that everybody, all community leaders, all community programs are trying to reach the schools around the same time, which is evidently at the beginning of the school year in September. I strongly recommend that it is a great idea to do so even earlier. Principals usually go back in late August, excuse me. So if you can start getting to them before the rest of everybody else does, it's one way for you to really make sure that you are heard. I would also follow up, not in September, but late October. And I say so because by then they've gotten into the rhythm of the school, and they'd be more open to see what might be a good fit for their school and what some of the presenting needs might be for the student population, and what extra activities are already being offered there, and what activities other staff members are willing to attach themselves to. It's not always going to be easy to have people stick around after school or during lunch if it's their own personal time. So making sure it's a program that they are committed to, they being any of the support people, is really the way to do it. I do totally agree with this point on the slide, being honest. The honest approach really does work when you're working in a group of girls that exhibit risky behaviors. A lot of the girls are already recluses, and they are already feeling like they are outcasts for various reasons. They're in trouble often. They are at the office for negative reasons often, and the program is there to make sure that they feel supported. It's not to target them as being a recluse and or for being somebody who is not necessarily quote-unquote good. That's an image or an impression that they're told often. The honest approach that we took, and we recommend strongly for getting more people involved in the program and for the students to buy into it, is to be honest. They're leaders. They're leaders even though they are able to, or they are negatively showing their leadership qualities in terms of a negative behavior, they're still nonetheless leaders. If you give the reins to them in being leaders and inquire that they are able to hone in on that leadership, it does help them buy into the program, and it also helps them want to take ownership of the program. And by taking ownership of the program, these young ladies are truly able to get involved and also take hold, interesting play on words, take hold of the program and to create their own dynamic. It also helps them hone in on their leadership skills. Many of them don't realize that they're leaders, but once the animators are able to help point that out and get them to buy into it this way, they now have taken over the group in a positive sense, and they start to want to add more to it, add to discussion, add to the art activities. That now becomes a cohesive group. We also recommend closing the group after a short period of time. Open groups would not allow for group cohesion. It wouldn't allow for transparency in conversations, but it does allow for, at the very beginning, new people to test things out. We'd recommend no longer than 4 sessions being open, and then start having conversations about closure, and obviously conversations about confidentiality, and what happens in group stays in group. This also is important for your support staff. Some support staff feel that they should be in group, and it's not always the best idea. They don't necessarily, they being the participants, are not necessarily interested in having outsiders or administrators hearing all of the things that are going on in their lives. So I would recommend a closed group, and if something were to come up, to have your animators and or the animators go and discuss accordingly. We're going to keep moving forward. And what's interesting about girls groups is the concept of sisterhood. Many of our girls we're seeing don't have a positive source to look to. So the animators have multiple layers. The animators have the roles of being positive, about being a adult in their life, and also are constantly modeling how to make positive decisions, how to be authentic in a moment, but also how to really communicate. This sisterhood comes from the animators. And now, here comes the community aspect. If a certain topic comes in your group, let's just say self-esteem, it's a fantastic time to then turn to your community, which is everybody listening, and start seeking out community leaders that are able to come into the group and possibly give a conversation, demonstration, or to just be a part of as a resource to the group. This really does help. Now, being honest, as I said before, is one of the best ways to do so. And in my experience, and in many of our experiences, we see that our community outreach individuals are those that have gone through many things in life, walked in various lives and shoes, and they're able to take those experiences and bring them into group and show the girls that things can be okay if and when they want them to be. Community outreach at this point is at key. It's a huge, huge piece. And it's really interesting that community wants to help community. So by being able to be humble and ask for the assistance, more than likely we're able to find people. This day and age where things are really expensive, we're impressed to see that people still want to do work for free. by even telling them that we have a small honorarium to give them, they're blown away by it, because their desire is to try to help reach these girls and help make sure that they're helping in the process of creating positive impact. Sometimes we get the opportunity to talk about their futures, and by yesterday's experience, which we're going to talk about next, we can see that we might even be changing and shaping their lives. Guest speakers are great too to change the overall energy of the group and to help put them in different experiences, them being the participants, to see how they are able to show and give respect. One of the great things that happened yesterday, I'm going to jump slides, is a program highlight. I'm going to pass the cell phone over to our animators, and they can talk briefly about what we did yesterday with Girls Action Foundation.
Hello, good day, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. This is Nadine. Tessa will be speaking about tomorrow as well. So we basically wanted to do a grant about girls, women in leadership. So we applied for this grant, but we focused this around music, arts, literacy, writing rhymes, etc. So we started with the group actually is talking about their experiences. What do we want them to talk about? What is on your mind? What do you want to take out? And we invited a guest speaker, the wonderful Sarah M.K., to come in, who is a professional singer, who is a songwriter as well. And she came in and worked with our group at Marymount and developed the song, helped them come up with their rhymes and their thoughts on what they want to do the song about. So luckily, we won the grant. Thank you so much, Girls Action, for believing in us and believing in this program. And from those sessions with Sarah M.K., we were able to go into the studio. Now Tessa will talk about the studio experience.
Hello, thank you again for having us. This is Tessa. So yesterday we went into a professional recording studio and we recorded a song. What we did was we had a young girl in Montreal who goes by Ryan Playground produce a beat for us, and she came into the studio with us, and we had the girls record what they had previously written in our session. So it was great because usually it takes a long time to record a song, but this way we could get everything down, and then Ryan Playground will be taking that back and she will be putting the song together. And having the girls go out of their comfort zone and into a place where usually it's, you know, they see it on TV and in music videos, and it's this unreachable place. And having them see that it is possible as long as you put effort in and you work on it, and you can achieve it, and it is a possibility. So the girls were definitely just, at first they were a little overwhelmed, and then they got into it, and then they just didn't want to leave. So it was a great, great success.
And at the end, what was really, really important is that these girls really, they actually believed. They weren't sure that it was actually going to happen, and they were like, wow, this is an amazing experience. Now I want to work with technology. Now I want to actually record an album. And we found with the studio, which is Planet Studio, with the J.O., who was the engineer, he is working with Bradshaw as well, creating programs that help girls and teens think about literacy, think about collaborative work, think about expression, and all of that was happening in the studio yesterday.
Excellent, and I bring that up as a career highlight for the program. Not only is it a highlight for ourselves to see such an amazing project happen, but also because it really highlights building community and going to community. So sometimes it seems challenging, but it's as easy as asking, do you have a recommendation for somebody who can do A thing, or B thing, or C thing? And once you start to open up your network, those people are then going to be able to hopefully get involved or recommend somebody that they feel would be the best fit, if not them. So back to the slide, I went back and forth, I apologize for that. In order to get into the schools, which is where you want to run a program to reach the amount of schools, or students rather, in one place, sometimes it can be challenging. So I require and I ask of you to please be tenacious. Don't give up as easily, and or go to your network and ask somebody that already has gotten into a school questions. How did you do it? How did you get your groundwork in? Who did you speak with? A really important note here is that staff change quite often. It's interesting to me that it's a place where students and young people need the most support and or structure, but it's a place that often has new principals, new faces, new teachers. It is the way of the beast, and so we have to learn to work with it. Saying that, that means ask people who do know how to get in there, how to get in there. There are times where you can go in for meetings. It's a great time to do so. You can ask to be put on the staff meeting agenda. You can be there for the first 5 minutes of the meeting, present what it is that you'd like to do in the school, and see if there's any takers or anybody who's interested in helping. You can also ask to go to the principals meeting. The principal meetings happen at the school board level. They're a little bit challenging to get into, but once you've been around different organizations, they may say, well, we can ask for you to be added to the agenda. One piece there that I need to highlight is that we all have to continue to support and help each other's programs. We know funding is tight. It's something that happens across the board all the time. But we also know that our goal is to always try to help the youth that were in front of us. So by keeping that goal as our focus point, we should be willing to try to help out our fellow organizations. That, to me, is one of the best and most main keys in getting your community involved in a girls program. Another highlight I mentioned earlier is that we are now in the LBPSC. If things continue to go well and there's an opportunity for us to move on and continue doing said program, maybe we could go back to an opportunity where we have more than 2 animators and we can now have more work done in the schools that need us. And there was never one preference over board. I have to be very clear. It was just that the BCRC had a long-seated relationship with EMSC. So it was always easier to go back to having a program run in a school where they were used to us, where they knew our mandates, where they knew the quality of our work. But now that we have made inroads at LBPSC, we can only now hope and set another bar for a standard, maybe going to Sir Wilfrid Laurier if we're off island, or to the Riverside School Board, because the students need us no matter where we are. It doesn't really matter the board. I did already highlight the 7 sessions in 4 days. I'm actually floored by it. I'm not sure how they are able to do that. And it really does go back to really identifying that there has to be a good fit in terms of vetting the animators. In terms of our hurdles, I'm gonna come back to some of the positive pieces with Tessa and Nadine afterwards, but I would really like to continue to talk about what's strategic in terms of getting your placement. One thing is really important, and I highly recommend, is strategically curating your advisory board. I recommend that because we now have key members on our advisory board in different elements of action for young ladies. We do have a member, Simone, who's from Girls Action, who's sitting on our board. We have a representative from education from Concordia. We have Allison, who is a former animator for the program, so she understands how the programs work. She understands the school populations. And we also have somebody from Badshaw who happens to be the foremost advocate and or advisor for girls young girls, at risk for various behaviors and runaways and or girls that are at the highest risk of being trafficked. Saying that, having them on our board allows for us to ask questions, allows for us to really get to the meat and bones of what it is we need to do, and that really helps us get into the community. By having regular board conversations, we're able to share cross-reference and also share units and individuals and things that we now can have as one. We know what Badshaw is up to because we have somebody sitting on the board from there. We would know what Girls Action is up to, so we can now then take those resources and keep the ball rolling and make that community bond and network much stronger. That in itself helps to model the positive sisterhood that we're trying to encourage our young girls to see, because they see it at all levels. They see it from the board level, they see it from the animation level, and they also see it within themselves. So it really does help. I'm going to pass it back to Tessa to talk about another highlight in which she got the opportunity to prepare.
So I want to talk about how to increase participation and involvement. And first of all, I believe you need support from your staff and admin. That's a crucial element. For example, at LCCHS, they are providing us with 3 pizza lunches. And if you use those resources in a correct way, it's a good way of ensuring attendance. You don't want it to overshadow the the lesson. However, it's a great way of having them come. They can save their lunch money or they can have this special treat. Also having admin deal with the formalities such as permission forms, etc. While we are creative in the group, they're used to the structure from admin. So to have them do things where they need to get something back on time, to hear it from an admin, they're more likely to respond quicker than from us who are always being creative and laid back and, you know, supportive in that way. We also think that it's important to focus on recruiting large or small groups of friends. This increases participation as well as unifies the group dynamic. They are more likely to come when their friends are coming as well. And we find that everyone works really well together. It helps with the group dynamic. It creates a great space for, you know, getting the project done and everyone working together and feeling involved. And now I'll pass it over to Nadine.
Thank you. Another thing that we did, which was very, very important, is that during the planning stages, we did plan different activities, whatnot, but every group is different, every school is different. So we went in and said, you know, what are your interests? What are you interested in? What kind of art media do you want to do? So each group kind of had their own way of their input being in the group, which is very, very important because they felt that they had a voice in how the program would run. For example, let's take Burling Academy. One of the hurdles with Burling was that we went in and we did an assembly. So we were doing a trial and error, seeing how we can get the girls to come in. One of them, it didn't really work for the assembly. And when the vice principal came in as well, it didn't work to buy in the girls. However, when the FSSP personnel came in, identified the girls, they're so comfortable with her, we began to have such a great group dynamic. It really blossomed, this group, initially. Once we had the girls in the session, it was, what do you want to do? We went in with arts, and we talked about needs, relationships, what it means to be friends, rumors, those kind of things. So it was definitely a good progress in that school. So even if, you know, you have a lot of difficulty in the beginning, keep on trying, like Ms. Zeeta said, and you can get prosperous results.
Excellent. Thank you. I recognize that we have 20 minutes left, and I only have 2 more slides to share, and then we'll open it up to the questions and answers. But in terms of hurdles, as Tessa did mention, it sounded amazing coming from the principal that she would be willing to offer pizza lunches, but it did have a back-end hurdle that it presented. It was a double-edged sword because were we buying the girls in with food only, or were we getting the participants involved? So it comes also in terms of opening up community options. There are many wonderful organizations that can help provide snacks if that's what your mandate calls for, and if you can limit them so you see if the girls merit that little piece. Now, having food involved always buys people's attention, but it also can present a hurdle, as we mentioned, if they're timed in the wrong way, instead of as a reward, but as a incentive in a negative. Another honest hurdle that we have encountered in the past, and I feel we will continue to encounter, is being from the BCRC. And I say so because the name of the organization is the Black Community Resource Center, and we are approaching all schools, not Black-based schools or schools that have high concentration of Black youth. We are open to all schools and all youth, and the program is trying to help young girls. And sometimes, and the no fault of any of the admin or any of the individuals hearing about the program, their immediate initial contact or thought is that it's in schools only to help the minority youth, which is not the case. We are trying to help all youth. And so the hurdle, one of the hurdles was just trying to get people to understand that we are here to help everybody, and that there's no discrimination and or segregation in terms of who's targeted. The targeted youth are girls between 13 and 15 that exhibit risky behaviors. If they happen to be minority or not, it makes no difference to us. That was an honest hurdle. And having the schools understand what we are involved in and what our needs are before they get signed up. Sometimes schools are excited to have outreach programs, not knowing really what's involved, and there might already be a similar program in schools already in place, or somebody like the FSST worker might already have something similar there. So linking up with the school support people to find out what's involved would be really helpful. The community is really, really amazing when you want to see it as it's really, really amazing. It really does make a difference how you see things. And Tessa, I'm going to highlight, last year was an animator. She was a volunteer animator. And this year she has become an animator. And through that volunteer experience, she really did get the chance to learn a wealth of knowledge from the other animators who were able to model and show different things, but also come with different energy. And now in the animation position, Nadine and Tessa combined have a volunteer. And this volunteer wanted to try to be an animator this year. She's lovely. Her name is Amanda. She's capable. However, now with this volunteer experience, she's going to be even that much better when she approaches possibly one of your organizations to work in. Community building is so interesting because by just saying what it is that your needs are, many people in the community will hear the need and open up their doors to you. There are tons of other programs that link up with ours. We have been able to learn of the different assets and venues and places we can go just by saying we need something. So one of the ways to get your community involved is maybe using positive social media, by using it to communicate needs and or images of how things are going, using social media in a positive way that allows for people to see where things are at with you, inquire, develop questions, and then develop a new rapport if they don't already have one with you. Networking is obviously key. It's just like they say, when you want to get to know people, you got to get out there and meet people. It's the same thing with getting your other community involvement places to get together. It's a small community once you're in community, so you want to get people together. The artwork in itself, I do have to say, as we wrap, the artwork is obviously very cathartic. It allows for people to say how they're feeling. It's expressive. It is unique, and every single program, every single session does develop their own take and spin on things. It's fun, and it shows that there's a human factor to things. So by getting guest speakers or getting individuals from the outside to come in, it shows that we can all continue to play and have fun and work together on the same page. That is really the cusp and the crux of it all. I do want to sincerely thank Girls Action for thinking of us to do this project. It was amazing to get us together to corral our resources. And I want to thank Nadine and Tessa for not only coming here to do this with me, but for being the types of animators that make being a project coordinator very easy. They're simply amazing. Our community partners, like yourselves, Girls Action, we're very grateful to you. And I, at this point, feel that we should open it up for any questions and answers. And you might forgive me for a second. I'm just going to give the ball back to Girls Action.
Okay, thank you so much, Zeeta. So, yes, so it was a question about partnering with other community organizations. Yes. Do you ever, you had mentioned partnering with Girls Action. Do you ever partner with other groups?
Oh, absolutely. And the partnerships actually happen quite symbiotically, and they're simple to do in the sense that you ally yourself with other projects that are in line with some of the things that you're already doing, and or completely opposite and have a different mandate. So Girls Action Foundation's mandate is to help young women. This project is for young girls, so it was somewhat of a seamless transformation where there are opportunities for us to work alongside Girls Action and or to win, like the grant that we were able to apply for and win. We're able to gain some of the resources monetarily so we can do even more fun things with our girls. The projects we are able to do that have nothing to do with us that we're able to get outside resources in are, for example, Generations Foundation, who we didn't know about beforehand, which Nadine was able to tell us about, where we could, if we fall under the mandate, get them involved in helping us get snacks for our youth, depending on what their mandate is. So we definitely partner up with other people, and one of the ways we do so is just by really looking at our needs, doing a needs assessment, and seeing if there are any other groups that do donations and or offer some of the needs that we need fulfilled. That's how we go about it.
Great. Okay, so there's another question here. As you had mentioned, working with girls' leadership potential. And so about facilitating with girls who have rebellious behaviors and how it can be an asset and channeled into activism in the school or in the community. Have you seen some of your girls move on to activism in this way?
Absolutely, and I'm going to actually turn it over to the animators because they have seen the actual results in the girls and the changes in their behavior and their feedback.
I find that when you get the group of girls together, they can kind of look around and see a commonality. Oh, we're the girls who always get kicked out of class. We're the girls who always get detention. We're the girls who are always acting out. So they feel like they are being singled out and that they are the problem girls. However, when we go in and we say, you know, we don't know you, so we ask for girls with strong leadership qualities, their eyes kind of spark up and they say, oh, you see a positive thing in us. And so just to start it off by giving them sort of a compliment and saying, we see great qualities in you and we just want to hone in on that, they already become more open to our suggestions and to the program and to what we're trying to do. And even though we still find there are cases of girls rebelling, girls acting out, or even being more isolated because they're a little bit too cool, you know, they don't want to participate. With that, it might take a little bit more one-on-one of trying to figure out what it is that's bothering them or why, you know, they don't want to be a part of the group. And so on the whole, we try to tell them, you have a great skill, and then if we find that individuals are acting out, then we deal with that personally.
With that said, I'd actually like to ask Tessa and Nadine to also talk about some of the feedback that they've gotten, where I'm getting feedback from them in our weekly meetings about how some of the girls have changed in terms of now no longer being as defiant. So if you bear with us, we'll share that.
Yes, we compiled a feedback form just to get their honest reaction or thoughts on the program. First, they love the program. They actually wish it would last longer than our contract ends, which is in mid-April. So they've noticed that they've developed that sisterhood, and that sisterhood within us, a way of having trusting relationships, consistent relationships. So a lot of these girls don't have that consistency in their life. So having us come in every week, you know, really honing in on what they need, what they're going through, allows them to be more expressive and having that that trust and confidence in us as well, and us towards them. Like, we have built amazing relationships with the girls, and it's undescribable, actually, to talk about what the impact they have had on us as animators as well.
Great. Thank you. So it's a cross-transformation. It's transformative at all levels, for sure. Are there any other questions?
Yeah, there are, actually, also for the animators.
Cool. I'll pass it to them right away.
Great. So there was another question about if you two could speak to self-care.
How do you take care of yourself? Oh, we take care of each other is how we do it. Sometimes it can get a little overwhelming dealing with so many schools, so many different girls. We really do we have to be honest with each other about, okay, I'm tired, I have other obligations, can you do this tonight? You know, it's about handing it off to each other and supporting each other, because I don't think that one person could do this project. You really do need two people, and even though we definitely see eye to eye, we bring different skills, and so sometimes even in the sessions, one person will take over more with discussion, and one person will lead the group in dance, for example. So it really is about supporting each other, and that way we feel like it's not all on us, and the stress level is really risen or decreased.
And I would say basically having the trust in the beginning with your animator, Ms. Zeeta, allowed us to have group building exercises within the team. So that was definitely essential before the project began with the girls, is to see your personalities from the beginning. How do you mesh? What things may need to be worked on? And having somebody that you can, like I said, trust and say, you know, it's not, I'm really tired today, it's not working. You're very good at this. You're very good at dancing. You're very good at the artistic part. I can support you in that way. And having this open discussion, sometimes the girls connect to different animators at different times. And it may be a lot for that one animator. So having that confidentiality with each other to be like, okay, this is really affecting me, and I can't bring it home. Can we talk about it, and how can we deal with it? Going through your supervisor with the advisory board, having that support system really is what gets you through those kind of situations.
Awesome. If I can add, I know the question was for the animators, but if I may add, I really think the vetting process and making sure that the girls understand that they are quality performers. Like I'm very adamant about making sure that they feel good and that they are taking a time for themselves, even if it's a 2-minute like breather, or just to have a conversation, or to get a text message that emphasizes how important they are. Because if the group fell apart, it would be detrimental to how the participants would be. And in terms of their self-care, I think that they are amazing at recognizing how grateful we are to be in a situation where we can help without taking it on, so that way we're burning out, or they are burning out. And they're terrific animators in general. Their personalities are beautiful, but together they're very, very yin and yang, and it works in a wonderful way.
Well, thank you so much, Zeeta, Nadine, and Tessa, for sharing your experiences and insights with us. And just a final question, do you have any resources available to learn more about your program model?
Yes. One that I could think of is we have a template, how Expressing Life was when we started it. We had a 2-week interview process, and then the 4 animators created a booklet, or like a working catalog almost, of different scenarios, icebreakers, different working activities. And from there, the 2 animators last year, Vanessa and Allison, built on it, and they basically made it all digital. And they created and curated this really beautiful piece of work that Nadine and Tessa have been able to take and build and add to. So it's almost like our working Bible, in a sense, of different materials and ideas and images that we can use for different groups. And there's also, I don't want to sound too much like I'm about my own self here, but this group was so transformative to me that I did my master's on this topic, how to work in group with young girls. And so I made a master document of different icebreakers with various things that we can use that are annotated and quantified, like they're proven why these different activities will be cathartic. So there are resources that we have internally, and there's a lot of websites that we use that I'm pretty sure we could collect a list of and then share with Girls Action to share out for sure.
Great, amazing. And will the song that you have created collaboratively, will that be shared with the public?
Yes, it needs to be finished, but then we're going to have it in MP3 form so that we can use it in many different ways. The girls can all have a copy, and we can publish it online as well. And we are also going to, while we were in the studio, we took a lot of video footage, and so we're going to try to put together a sort of music video of behind the scenes, just clips of the girls. Also, we're looking for a place right now to kind of put that, but we are going to have that done. We've also been talking with CJLO about going on for an hour and talking about the program with a couple of girls, playing the song for that hour, during that hour, and having the girls curate the radio as well.
Great. Wonderful. So thank you again, Nadine, Tessa, and Zeeta, for that wonderful presentation. Unfortunately, that's all the time. Oh, thank you.
Oh, can I just make a joke? I apologize that there's only my photo. I didn't know how to upload a picture of Tessa and Nadine, and I apologize, everybody. That was not my intention. I'm not that computer savvy. So thank you for that. I apologize, though.
So, for those who would like to share this webinar with others, a link to the full presentation and question period will be available online in the next few days. And we will be sending you a link on where to find it. We would also like to ask for your feedback on today's presentation. Once you leave this webinar, a pop-up window will appear with a very short survey. We would really appreciate you taking the time to fill it out. This is a way to help us continue to improve the webinar experience for participants. To find out more on this topic, you can check out our publications in our online resource center on our website, which is girlsactionfoundation.ca, and you can also find more webinars and watch previous ones through our website, and you can find us on social media. And if you have any further questions about webinars or would like more information, you can contact Miriam Zaidi. And thank you again, everyone. Thank you again to Zeeta, Nadine, and Tessa from the BCRC for being with us today. And thank you for filling out our survey. Have a great day, everyone.